Welcome to Showing Up Solo, your go-to source for solopreneur success in the digital world. You're not just running a business, you're wearing all the hats, from CEO to content creator. What if I told you there's a way to master online marketing without sacrificing all your time? Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Solo CEO series. I hope you've been enjoying it so far. We've talked a little bit about what it takes to launch an online business. And then last episode, I believe I walked you through my signature shoe store analogy. Today, I would like to talk about social media marketing and the role that it plays in your online marketing strategy. Now, there's a lot of mixed feelings about social media. I myself did not grow up with it. I am a millennial. Facebook came out while I was still in university. And when I first started using it, your parents and grandparents weren't on there, kids weren't on there. It was just fellow university students. I actually didn't start using Instagram until about a year before I launched my business, when a friend finally kind of got me onto it. My LinkedIn profile, I had used a couple times to find jobs, but I never posted content to it. I had no idea if you could or what you could post to it. Pinterest was for pinning ideas for cakes and parties and stuff. And YouTube was just for consuming content. I developed a completely different relationship with social media when I started using it to market my business. And it's important to keep the two separate, I think. The way I interact with social media for my personal entertainment is very different to the way I interact with it for my business. I don't doom scroll, for example. In the evenings, I try to stay off of my social media on the evenings for personal looking. In fact, I rarely log into a lot of my personal accounts because I spend a lot of time on social media for my business. I like to stay away from it for my personal uses. It is the kind of platform that is very invasive. So you do need to set some clear boundaries with yourself. Like, not responding to Instagram direct messages at 9 p.m. on a weeknight, saying I only respond during working hours. Creating content ahead of time and then scheduling it so you don't have to be in the platform every single day. There's lots of ways to put some healthy boundaries in there. Another thing to separate is your own personal hang-ups, fears, concerns with being seen. People like people, and faces sell better than not faces. We've just seen that people respond to businesses with a face. That's why brands like A&W is a Canadian one, but there's this A&W guy. I think he was originally a manager, or maybe he was just an actor, but people seem to like him. And then for the last, almost a decade now, he's just been the face of A&W. Like, he just represents the brand. You've got Flo from Progressive, I think it is. God, this is going to age me, but I don't know if any of you remember Bob Hoskins being the face of BT. BT, it's good to talk. It's a really bad Bob Hoskins impression. But I remember when Bob Hoskins equaled British Telecom, and those two were inseparable as far as I was concerned. There's a reason that businesses use consistent faces, consistent people, consistent actors to represent their brand, because we connect with people more than we connect with a logo or a catchphrase, a tagline. And so when you're a solo business owner, particularly when you are a service provider, you are your product and you are your brand. And showing up on behalf of your business, on behalf of your brand, is very important. Now, I understand it is very vulnerable to show up online. There are some not nice people out there. Although I will say that the online community, there's been a lot of pushback to that, and there is a really wonderful, supportive online community out there if you can tap into it. I know I was worried about getting trolled, especially when video reels were new and video was all the rage and everyone wanted videos, and I was like, oh, I don't have time to do my hair and my makeup every time I want to show up on video, and like just being really like concerned about showing up. And then one day I did, and someone made a comment about me needing to go to the gym. And it was amazing, actually, because I looked at that and I thought, I do not give up. I don't give a, about you. I don't give a poop about you. I want to swear, but I don't want YouTube to demonetize me or anything. Not that they're monetizing me right now. But, I was like, I just don't care. I don't really care about you. What went through my mind is, first of all, like, you're not the kind of person that this content's meant for. And like, what does it say about you that you took the time to write that? It says a lot more about the person who's trolling than it does about the person being trolled. There's a lot going on for them. It's not about you. It rarely is. Anyway, I screenshotted the comment, I put it up in my stories, and I was bombarded with messages from followers and friends saying, oh my God, who's this account? Let me spam them back for you and all this stuff. And there was just like this outrage from people at this person who trolled me, and it was just wonderful. And I haven't really worried about it since. Honestly, if something comes up that I don't like, I'll just delete the comment. I don't care. I know that's easier said than done. There can be some really horrible people out there. But one of the things I do is I curate my followers. So people who follow me who do not fit my target audience, who do not fall into the category of people I want to be communicating with to promote my business, I remove. I just delete them. If you don't fit into the category of person I'm aiming to talk to, boop, delete. And then, I don't need to interact with you. And that's something you can do. Is another boundary, is to make sure that you're curating your followers. Avoid getting bots on there, robots and stuff. Like, it's better to have a small but specific audience than it is to have a large audience of random people and robots. So curate your audience. It's okay if you grow slowly. Then there's also setting boundaries in terms of how much content you're producing. Different platforms have different demands. So X, I still roll my eyes when I say that. I want to say, Twitter, but X, she says, using quotation marks. That platform, and I suppose Threads now too, works best with regular content being added throughout the day. Now, it's really short content, but you need to be posting regularly. Instagram tends to prefer posts coming out daily, stories multiple times a day. Whereas LinkedIn, the way the algorithm works, unless you have like a huge following, and I mean over 1,000 views every time you post something, it's better to do less is more. The way that the algorithm works, you're going to get better results by posting no more than every 48 hours. And I have seen great results just posting once a week. Even actually, I've been posting recently only once every 2 weeks. Been posting a LinkedIn newsletter promoting the podcast episodes, and my results are incredible, and I'm doing less. So LinkedIn is one of the ones I always go to recommend to online business owners because it is low maintenance and you get great results. There's other reasons for it too, but we'll have to go into a LinkedIn specific episode for that. Pinterest is a platform that rewards evergreen content. So if you, what that means is content that, it's not about being the newest and the biggest. It's about content that could live on there for months and months and months before it gets seen. The way I used to do my Pinterest, I have to top up my content bank again, but I used a scheduler called Tailwind, and I would, every time I'd do a blog post or a YouTube episode, I'd create 10 pins linking to that post, and then I would put them into my scheduler, and I would hit shuffle, and it would mix them up, and I would post 10 a day, but I could schedule 6 months ahead, so I never had to look at it. So that really helps. One of the other ways to kind of handle the demand for the content is to batch content and repurpose content. So this episode is going to be repurposed, and I am also batching. If you watch the whole series, you'll see I'm in the same place, wearing the same clothes, because I'm filming it all in one session. And I hope I still have a voice by the time we get to the final episode of the series. But what that means is, instead of spending the time setting up and coming up with stuff one episode at a time, that would probably take me 45 minutes to an hour by the time I've maybe even longer by the time I've done my hair and I've got the camera set up, everything, and then I've recorded the episode. Instead of doing that, so spending maybe 6 or 7 hours, I'm doing it in 2 or 3 hours because I'm just doing it back to back to back. Short amount of time, a little bit more demanding energy-wise in the short term, but lower demand time and energy-wise in the long run. And these episodes are what I like to call long-form content. So it's a longer piece of content. It's like a longer video that can go onto YouTube. Of course, it's the audio for the podcast. I could take the video and I could put it into an AI software. I use otter.ai, which is a transcription software, and it'll transcribe the episode. I could take that and I could use that to write a blog post. I could even use ChatGPT and say, here's the transcript. Please write me a blog post based on this. AI is getting really helpful for creating content and converting content and repurposing it. The other thing I'm going to do is use another AI tool where I will go to opus.pro. That's another AI tool I use. And I will drop a link to this episode once it's gone live, and it will chop it up for me and put captions, and it will pick the best clips that are going to do the best on social media platforms. And it'll do a little transcription for me, and then I can take that transcription, I can go to ChatGPT, and I can say, write me a caption that I can pair with this video based on the transcript, bing, bada, boom. And then I just need to quickly whip up a cover design in Canva. And now I've got, it's been giving me 10 to 20 clips every time I put a video in. So I've gone from one long video to, say, 15 posts from this one long video. That's immense. If you're posting once a week, 12 posts is 3 months worth of content. 24 posts is 6 months worth. So, obviously you want to mix it up. You don't want to just be posting clips from the same video for 3 months. For 6 months, that would be boring. But if you batch a couple episodes and then plug them in, it's not that hard to do. It's much easier to meet the demand of the social media platforms by batching it and then chopping it up into smaller chunks. Now, those of you who are familiar with me and the channel will know that I have my signature full circle content method, which is the strategy I employ for creating long form content and then chopping it up to smaller. If you'd like to learn how I do that, see the tools that I use and the tricks that I use, you can grab that, go to showingupsolo.com/resources, and it's there, the full circle content guide, which has been expanded from a simple infographic to also, I think there's now 3 little mini workshops as well that go into more detail. So it's a really valuable resource and it's completely free. So that's another boundary you can set, is by creating your content ahead of time. You can also create evergreen content. So what is evergreen? Well, just like the trees that are green all year round, evergreen content is content that is relevant all year round. What kind of content is that? Well, it's content that explains who you work with. So content that tells your ideal client that they're the person, that this is the right place for them to be. So content where you're speaking directly to your ideal client's recurring needs is evergreen content. If your services don't change very often, then content describing those is evergreen content. Your values probably aren't going to change very often, so that's going to be evergreen content. Your about you, where you're introducing yourself, that's evergreen content. If you have the same lead magnet, you can create evergreen content promoting that. If there's key talking points that always come up, you can create evergreen content based on that. In fact, the majority of your content can be evergreen content. The other stuff is seasonal stuff. Like maybe it's you're a veterinary clinic and you need to do some content for International Puppy Day. It's stuff that comes up that is specific to an event or time or a current affair. That's the content that you need to leave a little wiggle room for to do something short notice and put in there and integrate into the content plan. But a lot of your content you can plan well in advance. I do a lot of content creation as a service I provide to clients, and I like to, as a minimum, have the next month planned out ahead of time. But we usually have the strategy in place for the next 3 months. And if it's all possible, I try to build them out a bank of evergreen content that they have so they can just pull from when they need an extra piece of content. So let's say something comes up, like they've got a vacation or they've had a family emergency or something, and they just can't get their content out. They know that they always have some content there ready to go to just plug in and know that it'll be taken care of. I record my podcast episodes well in advance so that my podcast manager, Rachel, hi Rachel, who's amazing and works well ahead of time too, she's never waiting on me for episodes. She's just got them ready to go and she's got them scheduled and going. So no matter what comes up in my life, I know my episode's going to come out like clockwork because we've got a stockpile of content ready to go. So the one thing you can do to make your online marketing, particularly your social media marketing, easy is to set aside some batching time. Depending on how much you want to get out, in one go, I would say you could easily, if you set aside, let's say a week every 6 months, which a week, that sounds so much, but it's actually not that bad. If you set aside a week every 6 months, you'd spend the first day or two maybe recording videos. I really like doing the video recording, and then even if you prefer to write blogs and you don't use the videos to show up, like you don't actually publish the videos, talking into a camera off the top of your head is a really great way to brain dump. And then you can use softwares like Otter.ai and ChatGPT to convert that into a blog post or something. So spend a day or two doing those longer pieces and then another couple days doing the shorter, like chopping it up into smaller pieces and scheduling it. And then you don't have to think about it again for another 6 months. I mean, wouldn't that be wonderful to just not have to think about it? That's the goal, isn't it? And I can tell you from experience, when I have let that slide and I haven't done my batching and then I run out of content, it is a scramble to get back into it. And I often, it just doesn't happen then. And I get behind and behind and behind and discouraged. I have so much content to repurpose, and I need to just sit down and do nothing but repurpose and schedule content. If I spent just a solid week doing it, I wouldn't have to schedule another thing for like 18 months. That's how much content I have in the bank. So please do as I say and not as I do. But it can make it so much easier. The nice thing is, even when I have got stretched, my stockpile is never fully depleted because I have this podcast. So I'm creating the longer form content and it's still going out and it's still happening. So even though the shorter pieces aren't, I'm not going radio silence on my followers. So we've talked about boundaries for social media. I also just want to reiterate what I talked about in the shoe store analogy episode, which is the function of your social media. Because I get that a lot with clients. Oh, I hate social media. I don't want to do it. Can we just skip that? Or can we just do this more? The function of social media in your online marketing plan is getting you in front of people who are new to you, people who don't know you, who don't know they're looking for you. It is by far the easiest way to connect with new people. You don't have to show up live to an event. You don't have to go to an in-person event. You're not cold calling. You are putting the information out there so that people are more likely to encounter you online. The more content you put out there, the more digital space you're taking up, the more likely someone will run into you online. When I first started my business, before I filled up with my clients, I saw, basically I said, okay, this is how many hours a week I want to put into my business. If I'm not doing client work, I'm doing marketing work. And what that meant was going online, interacting with accounts of people I would like to work with, commenting on their content, sharing their content, coming up with ideas for content I could post and creating content to post, going into Facebook groups and communicating with people, going onto LinkedIn and commenting on articles and looking at people I'm already connected with and looking at their connections and looking at who I could connect with from their connections. And some of my early clients came through those efforts. One client who, I guess she was my 4th or 5th ever client, she found me through Instagram. And she said, I like what you're doing. I'd like you to come on and do it for me. And we're still working together. Even though my service offerings have shifted and pivoted, we're still working together. The way that we work together has shifted, but she's still one of my clients, my longest running client at this point. And she found me through Instagram. That was where she found me. I think it's because we both followed the same account, a different account. We followed a different but the same account, and there was some commenting or something, and that's how she kind of came across me. Another client who I have also been with now for at least 3 years, and more than that, found them through LinkedIn. I found them through searching on LinkedIn for people I would like to work with. Send a connection request to this person who I was like, oh, she runs a business that I think I'd like to be in business with. Send her a message. She said, I don't know you, but let's have a call. And the rest is history. We have been working together for over 3 years now. And again, I found her. We had no connection. It turns out actually that we did mutually know that first client I was talking about, but that was not how we got connected. We just I stumbled upon her when I was seeking out people I'd like to work with, and we connected. And that is the magic of social media, getting you in front of people who don't yet know you. I know a lot of people, I have the conversation a lot where, I get a lot of referrals. I have a strong referral network, so I don't need any new clients right now. Referral networks are wonderful. They are great. They are probably your best source of qualified leads. But they are limited. Eventually they could run out. And if you don't have a process in place for bringing new people into your network, you're going to run into a problem. So having a social media marketing plan in place, having a way to grow that network, even if you're just growing connections with people. Nicole, who used to host the show with me, I did meet her through a group program, but we also connected on social media. Courtney Miller, I had her as an expert on in the early days of the podcast, and funnily enough, she was my who I want to be when I grow up account that I followed on social media. Turns out she admired what I did so much, and she reached out to hire me. And again, our connection was following each other on social media. So you can grow a referral network through social media too by connecting with like-minded businesses. Some of the most powerful people you can connect with are people who have the same target audience, the same ideal client as you, but offer different services. Because then it's like, oh, you're looking for this. Oh, you need that too. Well, I know someone. And it can be really collaborative and compatible that way. Like Rachel, my podcast manager. I don't offer podcast management services. So when I encounter someone who's looking for a podcast manager, I will refer them to Rachel. And she refers people who are looking for my services to me. So this is the power of social media, and it's never too early to start. Even if you're still umming and ahhing about whether or not to launch a business, start to build a presence online, because social media takes time to see results. You are not going to start seeing results until about 3 months after. When I had first launched my business, I remember quite clearly it was the end of September, and I was 2 months into my business, or 3 months into my business, and I was worried about making rent. I'd had a few clients, but they'd been projects and those were finished. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make enough money in October to pay my rent. And I was given the advice by my coach at the time to go into launch mode, to basically show up online every day, host a live event, offer clarity calls, or offer strategy calls for free and do some lives and everything. So I did. I went full in. I showed up online as much as I could. And I mean, I happened to find a few clients during that month, but so I had just enough to make it through in terms of rent. But then in December, I had an influx of new clients. I think I signed on 4 or 5 new clients in December, and it was the result of that effort I put in October. So you need time, which is why, again, it's never too early to start. I have seen it happen too many times where someone, say, wants to launch a new course, and they don't start their social media presence until they're ready to start launching the course. And then they don't get the huge signups that they're looking for, because you're starting from zero. So start putting content out there. Start, even if you pivot later on, start putting content out there early and build a following so that you have this authority, so that when you're ready to sell something to someone, they're ready to listen. So that's the function of social media in your marketing strategy, and some of the ways to set boundaries to make it manageable. There are a lot. I mean, I could go on and on and on about social media, which is one of the reasons why I have my full circle content guide for how to batch your content. I have a whole module in my Foundations for Success and Setup for Success program. You can also buy the individual course. So I have the Simplified Social online course, or you can get it with 3 coaching calls, which is a really nice way to sort of take the learning and then implement it with my strategic support. You can find all that on showingupsolo.com. And of course, we also have a playlist called Simplified Social. You can find on YouTube, and I believe you can find it on Spotify as well, to listen to all the other episodes where we've talked about social media strategy. And there's a lot. So if you have any specific questions, please don't hesitate to drop them in the comments or to reach out to me. Again, showingupsolo.com. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode and it's given you a new perspective on social media and its role in your marketing strategy. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Showing Up Solo. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review or sharing your thoughts in the comments. These simple gestures help us appease the algorithm gods and continue to bring you great, free education. Ready to navigate the world of marketing with confidence? Take the Marketing Compass quiz, available at showingupsolo.com, to discover the next phase of your journey. And don't forget to explore our range of courses and coaching programs while you're there. Let's transform your solo venture into a thriving success story together. Until the next episode, keep showing up and making your mark in the world of solopreneurship. See you soon.